a major milestone in his state's history. As of tomorrow, Lamar Alexander will have served as Tennessee's governor or U.S. Senator for 24 years, 8 months, and 15 days, more combined years in those offices than any other Tennessean. Of course, Senator Alexander also remains the only Tennessee governor ever popularly elected to the United States Senate, the only Tennessee Republican to be undefeated in 6 statewide primary elections, and his 2008 general election vote total of 1,579,477 votes is still the largest ever recorded by a Tennessee statewide candidate. So, Mr. President, I ask consent that a statement from the Tennessee Secretary of State, Trey Hargett, who has calculated each of these political accomplishments, appear in the record following my remarks.
Without objection.
But as impressive as these statistics are, all of Lamar Alexander's colleagues know that political record setting is not what makes him tick. Here's something he likes to say about serving in the Senate. It's hard to get here. It's hard to stay here. So while you're here, you might as well try to accomplish something. Well, he certainly lived out his own advice. During Senator Alexander's very first term, he got 70 senators to support his Bipartisan America Competes Act to help our country stay competitive with the rest of the world. He even persuaded the Democrat and Republican leaders to join forces as the principal sponsors. When it was enacted in 2007, everyone knew who the chief engineer had been. As Senator Dan Inouye said at the time, I wish to commend my colleague, Senator Alexander, for his broad and very intricate history of bipartisanship. If all of us in this body followed this process in all major legislation, this would be a historic session. I thank the senator from Tennessee very much. That was Senator Dan Inouye from Hawaii. Then in 2012, after being elected 3 times by his peers as chairman of the Republican Conference, Lamar did something that is not often done around here. He gave up that power and his future ambitions for elected Senate leadership in order to, quote, spend more time working to achieve results on the issues I care the most about. Since then, not coincidentally, there have been a steady stream of important new laws dealing with those very issues. Time after time, Lamar has taken the lead, often as the principal sponsor or chief engineer. He's worked behind the scenes. He's collaborated across the aisle to get things done. He hasn't often stepped into the spotlight himself, but he has almost always been the key driving force. As chairman of the Senate Help Committee, he worked with Senator Patty Murray to fix No Child Left Behind. President Obama called it a Christmas miracle. And the Wall Street Journal said it was the greatest devolution of power to states in a quarter century. The nation's governors and the National Education Association recognized Lamar with awards. So, Mr. President, we're dealing with a rare public servant who can literally win plaudits from the Wall Street Journal editorial board and the nation's largest teachers union at the same time. In 2013, Senator Alexander was one of a group of senators who revamped federal student loans with a new market-based interest rate to save hundreds of millions of dollars for students attending college. In 2016, he and Senator Murray sponsored the 21st Century Cures Bill, a landmark legislation I was proud to be involved with and view as the most significant law of that entire Congress. In 2018, again with Senator Murray, he authored the landmark Opioid Crisis Response Act. President Trump called it the single largest bill to combat a drug crisis in the history of our country. Last year, working with Senator Hatch, he was the chief engineer of a once-in-a-generation legislation to ensure America's songwriters were paid fair market value for their work. And for the past 5 years, as chairman of the Energy and Water Development Appropriations Subcommittee, he's worked with Ranking Member Feinstein to deliver record funding for our national laboratories, funding to keep America #1 in supercomputing, and 6 years of full funding for inland waterway infrastructure. So, this is quite the distinguished record, and this is far from all of it. I've heard that Senator Alexander explains to Tennesseans they can think of Congress like a split-screen television show. On one side are the dramatic public fights, the partisan showdowns. And on the other side, he explains, you'd see huge bipartisan majorities working diligently on issues that directly affect the daily lives of millions of Americans. Well, that side of the screen is where you'll find Senator Alexander. And in fact, he's a star player. Senator Alexander has announced he won't seek a 4th term in 2020. But while the end of his time here may be in sight, I'm confident the catalog of his hard work and leadership is nowhere near complete just yet. As chairman of HELP, he and Senator Murray have reported the Lower Health Care Costs Act to the full Senate. They're working together to reauthorize and update the Higher Education Act. And he and Senator Feinstein have produced an appropriations bill passed by the Appropriations Committee that would provide a 5th year of record funding for national laboratories, a 6th year of full funding for our inland waterway infrastructure, and the resources to keep America #1 in supercomputing. And there's almost certainly more to come over the next year and a half. So, Mr. President, Lamar's service reminds us that there are many ways to be a transformational leader in this body. As a young man, I was an intern for Senator John Sherman Cooper of Kentucky. He was never an elected leader, but was always regarded by his colleagues as a leader because of his willingness to do what he thought ought to be done. Senator Cooper once said to me, I not only represent Kentucky, I represent the nation, and there are times you follow and times when you lead. In fact, Madam President, 2 of the 3 Senate office buildings are named for senators who were never elected the leader of their party's caucus. Lamar Alexander is just that kind of leader. So we're proud to celebrate this milestone as Senator Alexander notches more combined years as senator and governor than anyone else from his state. But even more, we recognize the example the senator has set for all the rest of us. It's just like he says, it's hard to get here, hard to stay here, and while you're here, you might as well try to accomplish something. Congratulations, my friend.
Senator from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr.